So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Right now, I'm working on a project that we're turning into a product. It's like a prototype for CSJ, and and this. So I'm testing it on myself. It has to do with dating and relationships, just to see if it'll work, whatnot. So
Is it like a dating app?
yeah, it's a certain kind of dating app, but like the way they ask their questions for matching people, there's like a certain algorithm. I am answering the questions in such a way where it's like, oh, I'm the ENTP and I'm answering them also for an INTJ as well, so that I match up with INTJs
Right.
specifically. So, and it's a very interesting project. There's like over, I don't know, 50,000 different questions, but the more you answer, the more you can narrow it down. Thing is, though, is that it's a lot of questions. Like I never imagined how many questions, it would be. I thought, so. Yeah. So like, because of that, it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do now? Because we're trying to, we're trying to get this company in such a way where we're able to get our products out and whatnot. As I'm being hired right now by a company who needs help with their HR, and yeah, and
Really?
I designed a curriculum for all of that and everything, uh, and the curriculum is pretty cool, uh, and it borrows a lot from various sources. And I got like 3 different training days set up. I prove return on investment based on the savings, the savings incurred for um, because like for example, let's say you do a job posting, so you have
Yeah.
to advertise the job posting. So you're going to advertise it on Career Builder, Indeed, and LinkedIn, and that's like $300 a month.
Yeah.
So technically, you're spending, plus of whatever cost it takes to hire somebody and onboard somebody, you're spending like $3,000 a post, and you don't even know if you're going to get a good candidate. You don't
No,
even know.
no, you
That's a
don't.
huge problem. Like that's a huge problem. So what I'm done is I'm taking cutting edge marketing practices, applying that to job postings. Well, simultaneously optimizing the job posting specifically for the applicant type that would be ideal for the job posting itself, right?
So what you're saying is like in the job description, you're including characteristics of that specific personality type, say, not just job responsibilities that may attract any kind of person, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Very good.
That's correct. We identify the specific type of like we look at their job description, we identify the specific types or the quadra that is attached to that job. That's usually a specific type, quite honestly. And then it's written in such a way that it makes it appealing specific to that type. And instead of posting it on LinkedIn or Career Builder or any of those places, we market it using traditional, non-traditional marketing practices to give them some savings. So they end up leveraging social media instead of the traditional Career Builders, Indeeds, LinkedIn's, to drive traffic, specifically targeted traffic,
Yeah.
to that landing page in hopes that they will gain applicants or candidates, you know.
Yeah, that pool of candidates being effectively self pre-qualified for the position based on
Exactly.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because if somebody's interested in it, it's usually because they're like, oh, I'm that person. They
Yeah,
identify, they
exactly.
identify with the post. It's about the job posting itself. We're trying to create identity. It's all about identity, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So And that's kind of, from an HR standpoint, just how important it is. I never imagined the amount of cost that goes into hiring people. Uh,
It's a lot.
it's insane.
It's a lot.
If you
And
look
that,
at
go ahead.
if you look at the numbers annually, it's even worse than I thought. Much less attrition and retention. It makes it even worse. But like if you look at annual costs for like an average sized small business, and we're talking 40 plus employees, the cost is insurmountable. So if there's any way we could, if there is any way, like we could reduce that cost, and we give them that return on investment with proper training and whatnot, it's better. So,
yeah, I think you have a huge market open to you because with it, so like what I do, for example, it's a part of HR, very close to HR.
oh, really?
Yeah, because what I do is learning and development administration for the state. So we work with HR, like hiring people, workforce planning, all that stuff. So, like for me, I bring that typology perspective there, and I have conversations with HR people who come to me and they've been like, do you have a way of typing people that we could use in our job interviews for my exams?
Right.
Or my answer to that has always been, no, that's symmetrical because typing is like a nature-based thing. And to you, if you're not qualified, you can't separate nature versus nurture as just a regular HR person. So that would be a bad idea. But the way that you're doing it, though, is where nature is already taken care of. There's no human error because you've designed sort of the exposure to that job posting to have that person naturally finds it. So I think if you advertise this, it's not just the one or two or three HR companies, it's all HR companies who are looking for something like this.
Right.
So do you have any plans to, I guess, market this and make something big out of it?
Yeah, definitely we do. I mean, we're finalizing the curriculum yesterday. I just need to build the PowerPoint presentations and some of the written materials. But we have the entire process figured out. We got discovery, we have social engineering, we have 3 training days that go with it. Well, the training days can be condensed or extended just depending on what they want, what they're looking for. It also depends on the amount of employees we're working with, because the size of the company definitely determines what's, because there's a lot of work. There's definitely a ton of work that could go into it. Like just the social engineering phase itself could take multiple days, just depending on, how much exposure that I get to everyone within the firm. Because if you're going to like a really, really big business of thousands of people, I'm not going to be able to meet all thousands of people. You know what I mean? But like with a small business, I'd be able to, psychoanalyze everyone on the fly, So I actually just pretend to be an employee for a day and I psychoanalyze everyone on staff essentially. And then I have all that data. And what's also really great about this product is that it's got results. Like we actually show reports and are able to generate reports of the data gathered from within their organization. When we can show like a company overview, how many of which type is where, and then you do that by department. And then you could look at statistics like what kinds of interaction styles are a majority, what kinds of temperaments are a majority. And you can actually really identify your corporate culture that way. And you could be like, okay, does this corporate culture fit our vision? Or does it fit, or does it not fit our vision? And so like, for example, you may have a job posting, right, that is specific to a certain type. The problem is though, you may not want that ideal type for that job posting because culturally you need somebody in a different temperament to balance out your other temperaments. Why? Well, here's the problem. When you have a lot of people with the same temperament in the same room, there's some huge liabilities there. There's huge risks. One, they can turn into a clique and wield power. 2, they could walk off with intellectual property, make a new company, and be your competition. And 3, they can have a class action lawsuit. So you never want an overarching temperament within your organization in any of your departments or anything. You never want that. You need to have some kind of temperament balance every time. A lot of people don't understand that. So based on that, what do, right? Like what is the challenge? How do you solve that problem? So just because you have a job posting, taking on a new person in the company, it's not, you can't necessarily just go for the ideal type, because that may contribute to the temperament problem. So you have to be really, really careful. So those reports at the end of it give recommendations with, yeah, here's all the ideal types for these job postings, but you need to hire these people instead because it will solve the temperament issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're talking, and I hadn't thought about it this way, but you're not talking people all the same type. It could be any of the types within a single temperament, and you're looking to balance with a different temperament, right? Is that what?
Yes.
Okay. Mm. Okay.
Yeah, you definitely want to balance, because here's the thing: like if you have too many NTs on a team, like let's say a computer programming team, software engineering team, they're extremely pragmatic and they're just going to do whatever they want, which may not fit the company vision. It might be a good idea to have some NFJs on that team because they're pretty good at computer programming, who are affiliative, who want to do the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Through the affiliative instead of the pragmatic.
Yeah.
That way they're more focused on the vision and not necessarily focused on just what the NT clique wants, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to have a nice little difference in there. It also creates cognitive variety. You need cognitive variety, or else, and cognitive variety can lead to conflict. Sure, personality conflicts happen all the time, but it's just important to understand, hey, with your personality conflicts, like, I mean, what can you do, right?
Right. Well, I mean, even in goal comparison, I think you mentioned this yourself. You can have conflicts.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah. Okay.
You have to balance so many things. You have to balance interaction styles. You need to balance temperaments. You have to balance professional compatibility, like professional compatibility itself. You have to balance that out. You have to balance out which types are ideal for your job postings, right?
Right.
That's like 4 different things that you have to balance when you're considering to hire someone in the organization. So you could see just how, from an HR point of view, this is completely complex. And it's really difficult psychologically to actually pull this off, right?
Yeah.
Luckily, I found a way to do it, and that's fine. But, so this is like the sales pitch that I give people. You have these challenges and you're not even aware of it, and all these problems that you're having is coming from this issue, on top of the fact that you're spending too much money anyway on your HR. I can reduce the cost of your HR by X amount of percent. And if you follow these systems while simultaneously lowering your attrition rates, because people will be happier to be on board, and, sometimes a company, they'll be like, well, I just want the ideal types for these positions. And then I have to tell them, fine, here's what your company will look like on paper if you have those specific positions. Here's what they'll look like. Oh, you have too much of a temperament problem. Okay, so you're putting yourself at risk here. Oh, what do we do? Like, that's the problem. CEOs don't realize that sometimes it's not a bad thing to have positions within their firms to be slightly different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To the point where it's different. Like, so for example, let's say they have a position and they say, I want an INTJ for this position. But then they really need to consider an ESFP. They really do. And they just tweak that position slightly to ESFP to provide that temperament balance. You know, they need someone who's a little bit less logical, still pragmatic, but they're also kind of like a face of the team because they might be up front, you know, when they're more exposed to people or something like that. Whereas the INTJs who are there on the team are not. They're also polar opposites with the INTJs. It creates competition, which may actually be healthy, not just a problem. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I like how you're framing that. What I've done so far is like not even close. My approach has been to label certain temperaments as strategists and certain temperaments as tacticians. So, like for example, since I work in like state government, that area, I talk about how every team needs to have people labeled as strategists, which is the guardian and the rational temperament for states, because rationals are strategists by nature.
Right.
From that natural government perspective, they know what is actually practical in a government setting. So together they strategize. The orange people, the artisans are your tacticians.
Yeah.
That when everything goes wrong, they'll adapt. And then through both of those stages, the idealists are the ones who carry the vision and deal with people.
Yep.
So it works out pretty well, but what you're saying, I think, already incorporates that, but it's more efficient. It's more cost efficient.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that's all it's about, man. It's trying to reduce costs as much as possible. Hold on. Trying to get another platinum person in here. I don't know. Like, I post things. I just don't, not really sure why. I guess platinum folk don't really use Discord that much, so we're just gonna have to remember that. It's all right though.
Maybe that's because they have never even either.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of HR challenges out there, and those are the challenges basically, and we solve those challenges pretty well, and we have an entire curriculum set up for it now, and it's great. And eventually, the new CSJ licensed coaches will be able to handle that, and they themselves will also be able to execute those training sessions and just kind of go in that direction. But yeah, it's it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. Like, the thing that I'm mostly looking at right now is just being able to identify just on average how much it costs to hire somebody.
Yeah.
You know, because the direction that I want to do it is it's completely different, using the different marketing strategies instead of just the traditional LinkedIn's and career builders and all of those things. People, or even paying a recruiter. Recruiters are expensive.
Yeah, they are. And you also have to factor in the cost of hiring the wrong person.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know,
yeah.
because that's some significant cost.
Yep.
Because, you know, in this day and age, if you hire in the wrong person, it's going to take a long time to get that person out. A long time.
Yes.
You know, so
even if you're in an at-will state, it's still
oh yes,
it's still insanely difficult.
Yeah.
The cost of hiring the wrong person, it's just not yeah.
Right. So Chase, is there like a target size company or industry that you're looking at this point, or?
Not really. Not really. I think what I'm going to do, like, I'm going to go on site and do these things, but what I'm going to do eventually is, like, after I've gone on site a couple times for various customers, I'm actually going to just film the entire curriculum and then go through the entire curriculum. And then once I have that, I'll just create an info product. Hey, Adam joined us. How you doing, man? Not sure you can actually hear us, or maybe he can. I don't know. So the point is that I could easily take that and create an info product out of it. And then I could just do like a sales webinar for it, do a sales funnel with a sales webinar, do the webinar like once a week for like a year. And then and it's just the same webinar. And then from that webinar, we could get people that would pay, I don't know, however much we value that info product at, and then it's put out. And then I don't necessarily have to go on site because they have the entire curriculum right then and there. What they would want to bring me on site for actually is like the social engineering piece, you know, the actual psychoanalysis of all of their people on site. That's what they would want.
Yeah.
You know, but the training could actually occur remotely. So, and that's the issue. So yeah, I'm very confident that we'll be able to solve these problems. It's just really right now I have to just get the materials created. I'm going to design the materials in such a way where I could actually create just an online course for it, so people could take it and they could get that online course for their department and whatnot. And then we just you know, sell it from that point of view.
Yeah.
Or you know, obviously there's the on-site component that you could do as well. But yeah, just need the materials made and the numbers crunched, and then we're good to go on that. We have everything. So, hey,
are you able to hear me, Chase?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's fine.
Good. Hey, gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Wow, it's coming in nice and clear.
Cool. I'm driving, but I have good signal for now.
Yeah. Awesome.
What can you give me a quick recap? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine. We're actually talking about HR and challenges in the industry regarding hiring the wrong person and what could happen, or you know, just a lot of that stuff that I've been working on that we talked about earlier this week. But it's also talking about you know, the general costs of selling that. So
very good.
So anyway, we've also been discussing. Actually, I think that's been the primary subject, actually, because because Periani says he's also in HR too, and he was talking about his strategy of temperaments that he uses. So, which is also an interesting point.
Some more potential for what you're doing, Chase. So the perspective of your program is to the benefit of the company, right? You figure out ways to bring people to the company, the right people to the company. But I'm thinking with the same sort of framework or structure, like paths that you have, you could do the opposite too. You could bail upon this for people so they can find the right job.
Right. No, we're definitely going to do that. Like it's more of like trying to get the info product created and then learning how to then replicate it. You know what I'm saying? It's a form of Fibonacci growth. Like, so when you're conducting business in this area, you want to create something in a Fibonacci direction, you know? So like, you know, the pattern goes like this: 0, 1, and then 1, like 1 plus 0 is 1. So 0, 1, 1, 2, and then 3, and then 5, and then 8, you know, that whole pattern, because you're just adding the previous two numbers together. And then there you go. But that's Fibonacci growth. So like when you're creating an info product to sell, for example, or you create one info product, but then you understand like, okay, how many different applications is there for this specific info product? Let me just add, and you really end up changing maybe 20% of the info product for the next one. And then the same thing for the next one. You know, you're only really changing that much, right? Until you've exhausted its maximum potential, because it's fully grown at that point. It's not going to grow anymore. And then you do the next info product. It's actually really difficult when you're designing info products for sale to get the first one done. That's the hardest growth. And then it just becomes easier and easier over time, right? You know, when you're conducting businesses in this way. So, but yeah, it's that's just kind of like the direction we're going with it. But and we got to do it. We got to do it because I need to get my test out. You know, the tests will really bring people to the site, but we're also working on we're getting like actual like entire pages for each of the types. So when people just showing up there, they can just click on that page and they could learn everything they need to learn about their type specifically on that page, and not spend all this time trying to navigate everywhere, you know, and it just takes them to what they need to know. They get the general basics done. It'll do season 3, it'll do season 7, it'll do season 12. So they get to look at the concept of who they are, the concept of virtue and vice, the concept of compatibility, all in one place. They'll also be able to do they'll be able to grab infographics, including the type grid. It's included an infographic specific to their type, for example. All these little things that they could just get all in one place, you know, instead of having to bother going through like the entire navigation soup that is the blog posts, right? So yeah.
They provide what are the primary things that people seek out when. I know I guess I'm hearing we identified like what are the primary things people seek out when they visit your site or your YouTube channel. Not only because I know like you're talking a very encompassing infographic of each type, but have you identified like, I guess a crude way to say it is like what people are looking for when they come to csjoseph.life or your YouTube channel, or what's typical?
Typically, it's how to type yourself and others. That's the number one priority. How to type yourself and others. That's kind of the number one reason. The second reason that we've noted is their relationships and understanding compatibility. That's the second reason that they come. The third reason, I wish I could say business application, but it's not. It's actually parenting that we've noticed as well. It's really parenting. So it's more, people are more focused on like the human component, but then again, statistically, the amount of people coming to our site based on the popularity of our content right now, the majority, the people who are interested in us the most are NFs. So just from a temperament standpoint, they're automatically more interested in the people-oriented content anyway. If we could attract more NTs, then they'd be more interested in the business content, right? And not necessarily the, you know, that other content. So just like, while people coming to our site are interested in that way, you also have to look at, well, okay, it's because of, you know, what types of people are we actually attracting? You know what I mean? So
right. And then, so I guess I'm wondering, would it behoove you to do like a light, medium, and heavy version of the single sheet where the light is just simply like even just a couple, kind of that how to type yourself, and maybe, I guess what I'm trying to say is, and where we step them into like more depth and more information, but something light and easy that'll grab more people that we know is what most people will look for.
Yes. Definitely. Now, the type grid itself and all the different pages to it, that's like the main infographic.
Right.
And that's given away on like the front page. But for each of these pages that I'm suggesting for each of the individual types, we're doing it a little bit differently. We're not necessarily giving the type grid away on that one. Instead, we're doing a different giveaway entirely, where it's It's about their type. It's about cognitive functions. It's about the cognitive function slots, and it has a general description of what the type is written out for them. And it's very general, right? It's not so specific. And then they get that one right, and then they could go in from there. So that's kind of the direction that we're taking that infographic. It's very simple. It's like the Reader's Digest version,
Right.
That's what we're doing. The Reader's Digest. So, because I mean, you still get those people who they show up to the website. Oh yeah, it looks great and works and it functions well, but they're just so overwhelmed with the content. They have no idea where to start. They have no clue.
And I do have to say real quick, I'm like a very simple man. You know that from talking to me, Chase. And although I'm very comfortable in business, like when it comes to this stuff, it's like so overwhelming for me sometimes. And that's why I was wondering if like that light, medium, and heavy version to like organically tier them in and build their knowledge before it's just here's the total infographic on everything we have on your type. Harry and Jay, what do you got? I mean, where's your guys' heads at on this?
Well, no, I agree. And I was just thinking as you were talking about maybe you have a link on the site that's just basically, where do I start? And it takes you to that very light or very initial kind of concepts or things like that. And then it becomes more of a guide, a guide through the rest of it.
Where a simple guy like me can say, hey, I get this, and then go to the next tier.
That's right. And there's a link that says, okay, when you're ready, let's advance now. Let's go to level 2 or something like that. As opposed to just knowing that, assuming that everybody knows where to go and how to go and what this is all about to begin with.
So kind of like a flow chart.
Yeah, it's more of a, like, you could look at it this way. If you guys know what the concept of a sales funnel is, each individual page that's devoted to each type is a sales funnel. And that sales funnel starts very simple at the very beginning, super simple. Here, you can get your infographic, you can read about your type, you can watch the initial video specific to your type or whatever. But as they go down, it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And it has multiple call to actions. It has multiple points of sale. It has multiple everything all on the same page. And they're just scrolling with their phone. And as they go down, it's just they're going to get deeper and deeper and deeper. But as they stay at the top, they can be in the more general area. So we're just kind of like, it's a stepping stone. It's like the yellow brick road. And we're trying to get them to follow the yellow brick road on these sales funnels per type, essentially. Right?
Yeah.
So, entire strategy there. But
so you said you've got a company that's looking at hiring you to start this, or at least do the first one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking to a couple of people right now. It's just that, like I said, the problem is being able to demonstrate the mathematics behind, ROI. So identifying the amount of money that it would cost somebody to hire somebody these days. Because like I was told, hey, the average amount of money it costs to hire somebody is literally about $3,000, for an average small business. And that's insane. That's an insane amount of money, because really you just don't have to do that. If you're going to be marketing the posts correctly, if they're written to a certain type appropriately, if they're written to a certain culture appropriately, that is like, the way to do it. Right. But it's just a lot of complications there. Now, but here's the thing though, some companies are different. It's not like, let's say a 500 plus person company could hire me if they want me to literally psychoanalyze every single person in their firm. I mean, they could, it'll just take a long time. That's not exactly feasible, right? Is it as feasible? So that's why in the end, the curriculum itself, at least from an HR point of view, and there's tons of other stuff. There's boardroom stuff. There's general department stuff, department head content specific for department heads, for middle management, et cetera. But eventually the courses themselves will have to be digitized and put up entirely. Like every aspect, every module will have to be filmed essentially and explained. and uploaded. An entire online course would have to be put up specifically for that. So those really large organizations can just pay a flat fee, get that content that they need. And if they want to hire, CSJ for going on site to handle the social engineering and verifying what they already have, they can do that, right? But in the long run, it's best to just have all of the content right there. They log in, they take the class that they need specifically, and it gets them everything that they need, from that point of view. And then they're good to go, in the long run. It seems to be the most efficient way.
Let me ask.
Sure.
And this is just from your business and securing your revenue standpoint. Would it be better if you developed something so that you still went on site, but instead of actually having personal interactions with 500 people, you had something that you broadcast out, but that wasn't necessarily available to them without still having a CSJ representative on site and without still hiring you for that process? And once again, I know I'm not trying to be Scrooge here, but I'm also trying to secure your, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to just a $4,000 product that they can do on internet after they purchase a subscription without ever having to have you. I think from your business model, it may be better if you invent something that you use when a corporate capacity is beyond what you can actually interact with on a person-to-person basis. And once again, Chase, that's just where my head is, so whatever.
Oh, I agree. That's definitely a good idea. I wrote it down. But but at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, I just don't know how I do that, because the number one reason why they want me on site, the number one reason is because they want me to verify who they have in what position. They want me to verify which types are ideal for what position that they've created, because each position for any company is different. A marketing manager at one firm is completely different from a marketing manager at a different firm. Right. So, because their job descriptions are all, who knows what they are. And they need to have that ability to bring me there and be like, hey, this is what type goes to this job description. Oh, here's the job description you're looking to hire. Because you have to look at what they have pre-existing and what they want to bring in later, right? You have to look at both sets, and you apply types and temperaments to all of that data. But then at the same time, okay, well, do we have the right people in the right position? That question always comes up. And, I don't know how I could do something that would broadcast to that entire organization. Because that's the thing. Like, I look at that course itself, like, They go through my sales funnel. They get on my webinar that I do. They buy the course. They do the course. They love the course. But then the course itself is kind of a sales funnel too, to get them to hire me to come on site, do the social engineering, look at their descriptions, look at all of those, look at who's in their organization is what, and then that's the actual engagement, right? They already have all the other training ahead of time that I don't have to do in person, or they could pay me to do it in person. I don't know. But yeah.
So your thoughts are, even if they collect all the data without you on site, they don't necessarily know what to do with it.
Exactly. They wouldn't know what to do with it. They have no idea. And they wouldn't even, like, to be honest, like, a lot of these firms, they want it now and they want it fast. They're not going to waste any time because they're bleeding money and they know it. So it's more efficient to them to just hire me. I go out, I social engineer, and I look at all of the different pieces in place and just be like, hey, there you go. It's actually this way, or it's actually that way, and then they have that information. But what the real gold is, the real gold of it all is the reports that they get at the very, very end. Those report deliverables, systems analysis of all of the data that was collected at the time with recommendations, and then they can start making decisions. They've already watched the course online. They can already have their HR staff trained with the course online, but the course led them to wanting to hire me because it's like, oh crap, we could do this. It'd take a long time. This is pretty heavy stuff. How do we deploy that? Can we really trust our own team that just learned this within the last week to be able to do this for everyone in the organization? It's like, no, let's just hire the expert and get it done, and yeah, because Now, they could probably use the type grid in the training, sure, to type every employee in their organization. Sure, absolutely, they could do that. The thing is, though, when it comes to the job descriptions, they're not going to know. There's just no way. There's just no way. Which job description is more efficient for which type? You know what I mean? Like, they have no idea. They have no idea how to go about doing that. So it's they could even deploy professional compatibility. When we're talking about temperament culture, they have no idea. Like the training, sure, it helps, but it's not a complete solution without significant time investment. That's the issue, and practice, right? So great, we'll just hire the experts, bring the experts in, do the entire implementation, do the entire deployment,
and just expedite the process.
Exactly. And which they'll end up doing anyway, because they'll realize it'll save them more money doing that than trying to boil the ocean in the long run. So.
What do you think, Periani?
I'm thinking that whenever you market this kind of stuff, keep using terms like social engineering and use them often, because a lot of the people who will buy your product, they're all extroverted thinking users. And those type of people look into buzzwords, they are into words that sound like
I can't hear you.
Like that. Can you hear me now?
A little bit.
So since most of your clients are going to be extroverted thinking users, I would say keep using terms like social engineering when you're marketing your products and your services, because they will catch on to words like that, because those kind of words, they have that face validity, words like social engineering. So focus on that.
All right.
I like that. What about you, Jay?
Well, I was thinking about focusing on businesses or industries where if this is already attractive to NFs, let's say, focus on those industries maybe where there tends to be more NFs, where there be more accepting of that. And then once you get a few under your belt, then you've got some people who will recommend you to others. And then, of course, like you said, it starts building from there.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, I know my assistant's daughter, she's with a rather large company, several hundred employees, but part of their onboarding process is a personality test, the MBTI or whatever the generic version is. So maybe it would be beneficial to identify people who are already doing it and just say we've got a better, that are already, there's obviously sold on the science of understanding personality types and how that can benefit their business. And then say, hey, we got the best product, or best in brand, if you will.
Yeah, because I've actually, as we've been talking, I've actually been thinking a little bit about the opposite. A lot of companies have, experimented with MBTI or DISC or other systems in the past. And while they may have been of some benefit, they don't keep going with it. And so, and so for those, you wonder, well, why do I want to do this again? Or why am I different? How do we differentiate ourselves? And so that they would want to try again.
Right.
Something to consider.
And of course, from the beginning, I've told Chase it's just a track record thing, and I use the generic term success measures. But once you have some good success measures, then anyone can, and then it turns into a business piece where when you can go in and pitch, hey, you're going to spend X, but your ROI is going to be Y. Then that's when you just sells to everyone with a lot less effort. But it's just kind of that breaking in and then getting, oh geez, Chase has heard me say the hard data on the business to business piece 100 times.
Keep saying it.
Right. Well, because then, if a 5-to-1 return or 4-to-1 or 3-to-1 or 10-to-1 or whatever it is, like that's what the people who are making the decisions in the Fortune 500 companies, that's when the bell in their head will go off.
Yeah. It would be interesting too over time, like especially for the hiring process, if there were assessments given measuring employee satisfaction. So as you bring employees in who have been identified because of their personality type and their fit that way, assessing their level of satisfaction versus just the run of the mill, the old way, and show the benefit there.
And I'm under the impression, hasn't that been proven for like not only productivity, but definitely retention? Like it doesn't matter how much responsibility they have, if they're doing what they thought they were going to do in college, it doesn't matter what they get paid. If they're satisfied with their job, they're going to do a good job and they're going to stay. I'm under the impression that's like definitely proven at this point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's trying to, because you have to manage the personal culture of the individual, the culture of the individual for the job. You have to do that, and for the specific position. But you also have to manage the culture of the department, and then also like the segment, and then the entire organization itself. There's so many different levels, and that goes into like the area of personal sovereignty, because you also have to look at the organization broken up into subsections of sovereign mini organizations down to individuals, and you have to treat them as such. It's the only way, and you can't do that if you're trying to put a round peg in a square hole. It's just not going to work. How do you solve these issues? How do you solve that problem? Because for one, the cost of hiring and onboarding somebody is exorbitant,
Right.
but the cost even goes up further because you have training costs that you put into them through not just the onboarding, but just general training, and because of licensing or regulation training, continuing education credits, those kinds of things, because employees have to stay up to date on certifications. They have to stay up to date on everything. And then it even costs you more when that employee leaves because due to attrition, and then you have even more expenses on top of that. So the expenses just are exorbitant. Like HR is just, in my opinion, one of the biggest money holes of an organization. Quite honestly, it is the money pit.
Sure. And you're exactly right. Everything else in operations and with the whole finite stuff can kind of boil down to what's working to be. But HR is definitely the one, not one size fit all piece of a business, And I always, like, for my personal industry, it's a pretty crude way of saying it, but I always say I can buy materials and services anywhere, but people, that's the hard part. When you figure out the people, that's when you do well at business.
Yeah, definitely. Good. All right, gentlemen. Well, we're basically finished here. Is there anything else before we go?
No, I think that's it.
Thank you, Chase.
Yeah,
awesome.
Thank you.
Good to meet everyone.
Yeah. Thank you all for hanging out. See you guys next time, probably about 2 to 3 weeks from now for the next one.